welcome to the Pink Hair Girl podcast. I'm actually recording on a Thursday, which is quite unusual for me. I normally record on the weekend. It's Thursday, the 2nd of October, but I am going camping this weekend. Yeah, I don't know what to say about camping. I don't like camping. I've done plenty of camping. Let's just clarify, I can rough it. I've been a brownie and a Girl Guide, Girl Scout. I have done rock climbing and camping at base camps and all this. I have done lots of camping, and I kind of feel a bit over camping. I would just really rather prefer a bed. I don't sleep well on hard ground. Yeah, it's just not my favorite thing. I'm not a big fan of camping, and I normally don't do it. I send the geek with the children if they're going to go camping, and I much prefer to stay home and knit or do anything else really rather than go camping. I quite like the great outdoors. If the great outdoors kind of stays there and I stay here. It sounds so terrible. I mean, it sounds like I don't appreciate nature. I do. I just don't really like sleeping in it. I think that's the bottom line. And sort of public ablutions and cold water and needing to have shower shoes, because you've got to take your own sandals, shower shoes with you because you know how many other people have been standing in the shower or had their children in there wee in the shower. And I sound like such a snob, really. It's terrible, but I just don't like camping. So I am going camping this weekend. My children's Alexander technique teacher is also a nature conservationist, and she is doing a camp with the children and asked me if I would go along to help with some of the stuff, and also as the first aid sort of person, being a nurse and all the rest. And so it will be really nice. I'm just going to teach them a lot about ecosystems and a lot about people's responsibility and urbanization and within the natural environment and what our responsibilities are, and also invader species. You're looking at areas that have natural, mapping out an area, say for example, that's got all natural little ecosystem in it, all the plants and stuff and biodiversity, and then have a look at some of that's been taken over by invader species and so what happens in those areas and how we tackle that, and the links between people and our environment and all of that. So it should be really good, actually. It should be good. I'm not looking forward to sleeping on the ground. I don't sleep well sleeping on the ground. And although it is warming up here in Cape Town, we're definitely into spring, the evenings are still cold. And I get very, very cold. So I'm going to have hats and scarves and gloves and socks and still get cold, and the ground is hard and I am moaning. But I'm sure it will be nice. I'm not going to have any electricity, so we'll take I'll take something that I can take pictures with, but once the battery's kind of died, that's it. I'm not really going to be able to charge it again. So hopefully by next podcast I will be able to show you a few pictures. It's not far from me. It's about an hour up the road on the west coast from me at a Khoi people reserve. There's a kind of a place where they've made a sort of historical look at, because the Khoisan people, the Bushman people, typically live from about here where I am on the west coast right up to sort of Namibia. This is the kind of strip along the part of Africa where the Bushman people lived. I think further down into Cape Town, but as the Zulus chased the causes moved further down to Cape Town, so the Bushmen were also pushed further up. And there are very, very few Bushmen left, actually, the Khoisan people. There are very few left. Those that live traditionally, there's probably a handful left between sort of here and Namibia. And most people have kind of integrated into society. I'll probably hopefully be able to tell you more about it when I get back. There is a whole center there and a whole information bit about it and all the rest. I must admit my knowledge is a little bit sketchy, but hopefully I'll be able to share a bit more with you about it when I get back. So I will be able to take some pictures, maybe even a short little video. Hopefully I can show you some of the stuff while I've still got some battery. So that's what I am doing this weekend. So wish me luck. because I mean, I'll edit this and get it up maybe over the weekend or whatever. So by the time you're watching this, I am roughing it in the bush, not enjoying it. No, I'm gonna try. I mean, you know, you've got to just take all these experiences and get what you can from them and enjoy them and all the rest. I just don't sleep very well on the ground. I've got a sort of a roll mat thingy, but I just don't sleep very well when it comes to roughing it in the bush. So anyway, other news. What have I got? So, it was my granny's 95th birthday yesterday. I think it's quite an achievement to get to 95. And so I took the children. She lives quite close to me. As I said a while ago, I had moved her closer to me. And so I took the children there yesterday, and we had a little cake and gave her some presents and things like that. So that was quite nice. I think, yeah, it is an amazing achievement to have gotten to 95. We don't last very long because it's a small room. I mean, she's actually got quite a lot of space, but I mean, it is still a single room that she's in. She's got a sort of little sitting area and her bed, so she's got enough space for all of that. And she's got a double bed, so I mean, there's plenty of space. But to keep 3 small children contained in a small room still, you know, the boys start jumping on each other. And so I took little juice and cupcakes and chips, and they sat and they ate that. But once I'd kind of finished that, and then they started jumping on top of each other, so it was kind of time to go. So anyway, we ended up doing that, and that was really nice to be able to celebrate that with her. And then while I was there, I managed to phone my mom, it's her mother, and both my sisters, and everybody sort of managed to speak to her, and so that was quite nice. So yeah, and I took some pictures, so I'll put one of my gran and the kids in there. I think it's quite, so there's 3 of her 5 great grandchildren. I think that's quite an achievement, actually. So yeah, that's what we have. Those are sort of my bits of news. Let's get on with the knitting part, because I seem to have been casting on all the things. So let's get on to my works in progress. Okay, so what am I working on at the moment? Let me see, I've got a variety of things here next to me. These are my Edina socks by Claire Devine from her Head to Toe book that she did in conjunction with Ginger Twist Studios, Jess from Ginger Twist Studios. And this is actually in Jess's yarn, so it's quite nice. And this is the same base that Claire did her sample in, so that's quite nice. I know I've said that before, but anyway, I did go down in needle size, but actually looking at the pattern, I think it was supposed to have been a 3.5. There is a theme at the moment of me just not reading, it seems like. I think a 3.5 is a US 4, and I think I just misread it. So I had started on a 4, and it was just way too loose, and it was not nice at all. So I have actually gone down to a 3.5, and I've gone down to the smaller size. A lot of people said the pattern was running slightly bigger, and that the mittens need to be quite snug. And I don't have big arms, so you know, they've got to, I think the ones I make are the slightly longer ones, and I don't want them to be big and flappy and stuff. So I have made I've gone down to small, and I'm now on the right needle size, and I haven't got very far. I don't think I'm that terribly much further than I was last time, but we're now on track. I'm actually doing the right size and the right needles and all the rest. And this is Jess's yarn with the merino and mulberry silk, organic merino and mulberry silk. So it's lovely, and it's in the Nerd Herd colorway, which is this really lovely green. I'm not sure if it's going to show up on there as nice as it is. So that's my Edina mittens that I'm doing, and then I'm not very much further on my Mind the Gap socks. Actually, I just haven't got around to knitting them this time. What I need to do before I go away for the weekend camping is I just need to get past the heel. I need to put the heel in. I'm going to do the OMG heel, and it doesn't look difficult. I just need to sit and read it and put the heel, and then I know I can carry on knitting the whole rest of the leg and start the next one. You know, that's just no I don't have to think, I can just keep going. So like around the campfire in the morning or whatever with the children, it'll be a kind of a not thinking project. But I think why I've slowed down is I'm almost at the bit about putting the heel in. And so I need to measure and count and just check that I'm in the right place and have a while where I need to concentrate on that. So this is my Mind the Gap socks. And for those that haven't watched, this is in the Trailing Clouds yarn called Mind the Gap. And it's in all the colors of the London Underground. And having lived in London, this is really quite special. So I'm thoroughly enjoying those. And this is Blueface Leicester and nylon in these ones. So those will be good, strong socks. So I'm delighted about that. So those are my socks, really not much further than they were before. Right, this one is a design I'm actually working on. I remember I spoke about doing the rhino mittens, that I'm going to do some rhino mittens to raise money, hopefully to get or to help towards a rhino dog. The rhino dogs help to prevent poaching, to track poachers and to protect the rhinos. So this is what I've done so far. I've just done a rolled cuff, a bit of rib and some alternating color work at this bit, and then I'll do the design up the top here. I'm still busy working on charting the exact rhino. It's a little bit harder than it looks to chart a rhino to look like a rhino. So I would have to see if what I have charted actually comes out looking like a rhino. But what I did want to say, I know I spoke about stranded knit, no, not stranded knitting, continental knitting, when I was knitting my knit nights, that I wanted to teach myself continental knitting because it's supposed to be faster and a whole bunch of other things. And one of the big reasons for that was actually to do color work, to do stranded knitting, because it is a lot easier if you can hold the yarn in both hands, if you can pick with the one and throw with the other. And surprisingly, it's working really well. As much as I didn't like knitting continental when I'm just knitting straight, because I felt it really slowed me down, I could just knit so much faster English. I know in the long term that continental is faster, but just my proficiency is obviously a lot better English than continental. It's just what I'm used to, and it's always served me well. I just haven't seen the need to switch over. But I am pleased that I took the effort of trying to do it, or to kind of get a baseline skill in continental knitting, because it has made a very big difference in doing stranded knitting. It really has. What I've also found is it's helped my tension hugely. It's actually loosened up my tension, so I'm really not overly tight with stranding. Because stranding always pulls in a bit, your tension is a little bit tighter than usual. But I must admit, with using continental and English knitting together, it really has made a very, very big difference. So I have started those, and will hopefully get onto the pattern section quite soon, and then see if my version of a rhino actually looks like a rhino. Yeah, it's a bit more challenging than it looks. You look at these stranded knitting designs and people come up with the most amazing things, and they really are phenomenal in the detail they get into it and everything. So I'm trying, and this is my first time of actually drawing the design myself. I've gone to go and get pictures of rhinos and then put checkered blocks and graph paper and all the rest, and I'm drawing in and seeing what it looks like. But it always looks a little bit different when you actually knit it. So it's going to be interesting to see if the way I've charted it has actually, it's going to look like a rhino first of all. So yeah, those are the rhino mittens. I'm really excited about these actually. I'd kind of like to get them done and out and all the rest. So those are my rhino mittens. What else have I got in progress at the moment? Yes, my dad and Caleb, as you remember, their trip to England got postponed when there was the visa drama, but now they're going at the end of October, which, since it's now the 2nd of October, is fast approaching. But I am such a procrastinator. I always think I've got loads of time, and so I leave things and leave things and leave things instead of just getting on with it and finishing it. So I have 2 Heidi Bear's animals. I mean, you guys have seen these when I was kind of doing my one a day, and I must admit I got a bit slack with the one a day. I these are the toys I wanted to do. I wanted to do one for each of my children and then for my niece and nephew. And that was what the goal I had to try to achieve with the one a day. And I did achieve that. And I know I could have gone on to do other things. I did the squares for Yvette's blanket when I was making that for her friend, and I did those as one a day. But after that, I kind of didn't really have I didn't have a project that was using motifs or sort of, smaller bits to put together. And I probably could have come up with something, but I was so busy knitting other things at that point. I really wanted to get the Lush cardigan done on time and all of these sort of things. So I didn't force it. I felt I think I kept up for the whole 6 or 7 months, and I was quite chuffed with it, and I've done a lot more than I think I would have done without it. So I was really pleased with that. But now I really need to sew them together. I have two. I have the all the orange ones for my nephew's dinosaur. This is the Puff the Magic Stegosaurus ones. They're all sorts of different oranges. So I need to sew that up. And the whole elephant for my niece. But now that my dad is actually going quite soon, I really need to get these sewn up. And I promised that I would do Join As You Go, but these were the two I was going to finish, and then I was going to do Join As You Go, which I haven't got to yet either. But anyway, Join As You Go might actually be a whole lot easier than landing up with all of these that you haven't sewn together in the end. For those of you that do crochet, and for those of you that like Heidi Bear's patterns, I'm not sure if you've seen the new bulldog that's out. The English bulldog is just adorable. It's really, really cute. Every time you think Heidi's come up with the most amazing pattern, she manages to outdo herself and come up with the most spectacular things. How her mind works in that 3D way to put those patterns together is phenomenal. But anyway, so I have those which are kind of works in progress that have come back, that were sort of hibernating, that have come back into play because they need to be finished now. I have to get on. And then the next thing I've cast on doesn't actually look anything like what it's supposed to look, because again I'm doing a rather interesting construction, and again I'm at the point where I'm thinking I don't know if this is going to fit or if this is going to look like what it's supposed to, because of that whole you've got no feedback in the beginning. But somebody very close to me has been diagnosed with breast cancer, and so I am making well, I'd like to make a kind of a number of hats. She's going to start chemotherapy quite soon, and we think that it is the kind that she will probably be losing her hair. So I need to make some hats, and this is the one. Quite a few people that I was looking on the different groups and breast cancer support groups and things like that on Ravelry, and just what people had suggested about chemo hats and things like that. And soft was obviously one of them. A lot of people said not wool because they'd found it itchy. Other people had said wool hats were nice at night because you got quite cold. But the one thing that people had said was something that comes slightly lower on your ears and lower at the back of the neck, because you are lacking a natural hairline. And so otherwise hats can look like you don't have, also not covering up, not be warm enough and things like that. So I found this one, which is an escargot hat. It's kind of jazz and a bit like a cloche, but not totally, and it's a free knitty pattern. I mean, I'll obviously link this in the show notes as well, if you can see that. But it's good. But when I had spoken to her, she had said maybe something with a flower or something like that, and I thought that this sort of spiral pattern on the side might be quite nice actually, instead of a flower, and that it comes, down on, if you can see there, on the neck, it kind of comes down lower at the neck and around the ears and things. So this one is done in worsted weight yarn. It's actually done with wool, and I'm using bamboo because people had said that bamboo was a bit softer. So I'm using Vinnie's Serena 100% bamboo. I'm just holding it double because this is a 4-ply. And actually when I hold it double and I did a swatch, I came out with the right stitch count. What I am a little bit worried about is that both bamboo and cotton tend to stretch width-wise. Although my needle size, I mean, I'm getting quite not tight fabric, but I'm getting, it's not loose or anything. I'm a little bit worried about it stretching. This is kind of a one size fits all pattern. I can't knit a smaller size or whatever. I could adapt it if I wanted to, but so I was getting on, I'm on gauge for the pattern, so I'm hoping that it is going to be more or less the right size. You know, when she goes, it's kind of the kind of thing to wear when she goes out, because I know when she's home, she said she's not even going to bother. She'll put a scarf on or something like that, or just not bother. But it's kind of quite a nice hat to wear out. It kind of covers more, and it's so if it's a little bit loose, it doesn't matter. But you just don't want to look like a floppy sort of scarecrow hat, you know. So if it is coming up really big, I might then pull back and cast on less stitches, and then just you know, adapt the pattern a little bit for that, or maybe go down in needle size or something. So my yarn is a bit tangled here, but this is not actually joined. My cable's probably not long enough to show you. You do 120 and then you place a mark, and then you do another 120 for the brim, and you don't join the round at the beginning. And then what you're actually doing is that you're knitting the spiral at the same time as the body in the beginning, and then you join in the round, then you knit the body, and then you come back later and then put the sort of spiral on. So at the moment I'm doing, you know, 240 stitches, so it feels like I'm doing a garment size, you know. It's quite long at this point. No, sorry, I've got my yarn tangled. I'm not going to sit here figuring out what I've done with this at the moment. So it's quite long, you know, these two sections. At the moment, before I've joined it in the round, and before I've joined it in the round and get an idea, I can't really get any feedback with if it's going to fit or not. So yeah, I'm giving it a try. I know that a lot of people on the sort of breast cancer forums and cancer forums said, you know, they liked some hats, they didn't like others. It was hard to always tell. So I thought I'll make a few, and then she can decide what sort of works for her. Someone else had mentioned maybe some cashmere, and I've got a bit of that in my stash as well. So I just went to get the bamboo because it's very soft and it breathes well. And she'd asked for cream, so I got the cream and then this sort of greenish color. And then as I said, I've held it double. I just hope I'm going to have enough. I might need to go and get a bit more yarn. Anyway, so these are the two colors that I've done in the sort of natural and the green color. And yeah, so that's what I've made. So that's what I'm making for the cancer hat. And those are all my other projects that I'm working on. So two lots of those crochet projects to sew together. I designed the rhino ones, the mittens, the hats, and I might be casting on something else because it's October and there is a knit along. I'll tell you about that later. Anyway, so that is the works in progress for the moment. For those of you that have been watching the podcast, I hope that you all noticed the lack of Lush and berry hat in my works in progress. The Lush is done, finally. I'm quite chuffed with it. I think the lace at the top came out really nicely. I'll put some pictures where I'm actually standing. You can't see terribly much of it now. Yeah, it's all finally done. It's all sewn in. It's long enough. I made the body long enough. I had maybe about a meter. No, maybe two. Let's not exaggerate. Maybe 2 meters of yarn left. So it, I managed to just make it long enough. But I mean, I've made the sleeves, you know, properly long enough for me, and the body is long enough, and I think it fits quite well. I really am pleased with it in the end. I think I love the color. I absolutely adore the color. When I redid it, because I made the body longer and I made the button band longer, and I actually needed to put more buttons in than before. So I wasn't able to use the red buttons, and I went to go and find, I was initially really looking for just plain orange buttons that would blend in, that really wouldn't stand out against the cardigan. And I just couldn't find any. You know, if you get the wrong orange, then they stand out for all the wrong reasons. So some of them were too light, they were sort of more corally, and then there were some that were far too red or too small, and I really couldn't find the right buttons. And there were wooden ones, and oh, anyway. And then I spotted these. Somebody had said about maybe using a teal or a blue sort of thing. So I went to look amongst the blue buttons, and I found these, and I'm not sure if you can see, but they've got like a little bit of, they're sort of marbled, and they've kind of slightly bluish, slightly pinkish, but they've got little bits of orange in them as well. And I think they pick up the orange of the cardigan quite well, actually. I don't know if I'm 100% sold on them. If I find something different, if I find the bright orange buttons, I may change them. But for the moment, I think they work, and I managed to sew them on and get it done for still in September, which was great. There was Whiptember, finish all your whips on the South African group. So I really wanted to get this finished in September. So I did manage to do that, and I'm really quite pleased with it. So this is my Lush cardigan, which is finally finished, and I am quite delighted with it. And the berry hat, if you will notice that I managed to fix the hat so it doesn't look like a Franken hat anymore. And the problem? My literacy skills. Apparently I can't read is the whole problem. There's nothing wrong with the pattern. The pattern is perfect if you can read, which apparently I can't. You know what it is? I was reading on my phone. I know a lot of you probably follow your patterns on your iPad or on your phone and all the rest. And so often what I will do is I'll read the next section, and then the screen will go off or whatever, and then I'll just knit thinking I know what I'm doing, because I've read it, I know what I'm doing now, so just go along. Yeah, apparently there's a whole bit that I missed about what to do. And the stupid thing was, I should have known, because there's a bit that says break off your contrasting yarn, and then it said okay, let me try and show you now. So last time, if you remember, I was landing up, so I left this actual top part here the same. I just carried on going here without increasing any height. I still think my increase rate was a bit steep, but it didn't matter. I managed to fix that then. What I had done was, and I don't know, if you haven't knitted it, you might not totally understand the explanation, because the construction is a bit interesting. You kind of have to know, as you're knitting the bit that is becoming the larger triangle, you're knitting, and then you increasing as you're going, but you're also leaving a certain number of stitches unknit on the other side. You're creating this kind of row of stitches that you come, you turn one before each time. So you've got a kind of a whole row of stitches along the top. So when you cast off, so when you cast off this here, so you've come from your square, your triangle, and you've made it bigger, and you've made it bigger, and you've got to here, and you cast this edge off. You on the needle have a row of all of these stitches left on your needle, you see. And so the last time I did it, I'd casted off all these stitches, and then so I'd read the thing about casting off the stitches, and then I'd obviously gone straight onto the next section, section 3. Not that I cast off, no, now I'm finished. There was another sentence. You cast off, and then as you're knitting across these stitches, you are making one in between each stitch. So you are in fact doubling your stitch count for this top brim bit before you're doing this bit. So of course, if you hadn't done that, then you would end up with way too few stitches, which is why when I had done that section, it had come up so short, because I had far too few stitches to work with. So it had come up like way short like this. So when I did actually read the pattern, and I should have known, because then it had said to you, let's break off the contrast yarn, and if you'd done it my way, so you hadn't knit across all those stitches picking up, you would just, and it said knit for the first row, and if you hadn't purled across all those picking up, you would be on a purl side and not a knit side. And I kept thinking, but it doesn't say to break off the yarn and join it on the other side. So I did break it off and join it on the other side, thinking that that was just omitted from the pattern. No, it wasn't omitted from the pattern. You were just not supposed to do that, because you were supposed to have purled all the way across, picking up all these stitches. So next time, when we are in doubt, we will read the pattern again. So if you pick up and you actually go along and you do that whole increase there, the hat works out perfectly. And it is now exactly the same size as my berry hat, knitted in the same yarn. And I found these buttons, which I think match quite well. and it is for our Alexander teacher who is going on the camp with us this weekend. She's the one that's the nature conservationist. And so I think because it's going to be quite cold around the campfires and stuff at night, this will be great. She was here yesterday, and I showed her, and I said to her, I can show you your hat, but you can't have it. I have to show everyone in a podcast first, tell them what an idiot I was, that I can't read, and then you can have it tomorrow. Well, actually on Saturday when we see her for the camp. So the Barry hat is finished. The Barry hat is a great pattern. The wonderful thing about it is that it is written for any weight of yarn. You know, you're doing you're using by measurement. So you're going to keep going on the sort of triangle bit until it fits your head. And then you're picking up the other bits. And it's all sort of proportion. So if you do what it says, the key part of the whole process, then you get a hat that functions very well. And the construction is really interesting, and it is, I mean, it looks really nice afterwards, you know, with the stripes coming in at different places, and you know, it's really interesting. I mean, it's a great hat, and it looks nice, and it's nice and slouchy and all the rest, and so I'm quite pleased with it, actually. I put a picture on my Instagram, and I think it looks quite nice with the pink hair. Quite a few people commented it looked really nice with my hair. So I might actually have to knit myself a Barry hat in these in these colors. Anyway, so the Barry hat is finished, and the Barry pattern is lovely. So don't let my Franken hat that I did the first time put anybody off. It really is a very interesting pattern. And if you do what the pattern says, then obviously you don't need to rely on kind of the feedback you get from a normal hat construction to kind of keep you in line. The other thing I finished is just a very tiny square. We're doing I suppose, memory blanket or a support blanket, or Carle from Nurturing Fibers, her dying assistant Nalundi's husband died quite suddenly, and so we were making a blanket for her. So I'm doing a couple of the squares. Rachel's done some as well, and I need to put some letters. I need to do some embroidery of the letters on some. I mean, maybe this actually is more of a, I think this might should have gone in works in progress, because I seem to have ends I haven't sewn in, and actually my ones I was supposed to embroider. We're doing the letters of his name, so I think I was supposed to do, let's go and check, a T or an O or something. Okay, so ignore that. This should have been works in progress. But anyway, I've got two of these I'm making. And talking about squares, I have a whole lot of other squares I'm doing. It's amazing how a collection of people manages to be supportive, or manages to find meaning and a way to support people that's sometimes otherwise quite difficult, in making these blankets with a lot of squares. And kind of the process of collecting and putting it all together and gathering that and all the rest. I mean, I know I have spoken about the blanket that was made for me for my wedding, which I treasure, which is really great, and I love it, and it's got so much meaning in it. And you know, we're making this memory blanket for Nulundi, whose husband died, and there is a kind of a few others that seem to be going on at the moment. There's the Bakery Bears podcast. Dan on Bakery Bears has cancer and is going through treatment at the moment, and a lot of people are doing squares for a blanket for them, and so I'm going to do one of those, and I'm actually going to send it with my dad and Caleb when they go to the UK. It'll be just, you know, the easiest way to get it posted there. So you know, people are doing squares for that, and it's a really great way of being able to show support when there is very little else you can do. And I think there is a collective power in it. There is a collective goodwill and feeling that goes with these kind of things. And so I'm busy organizing a support blanket like this for the person that I know that's going through cancer and about to start treatment at the moment. So I haven't made it a public thing. I've just contacted privately close friends and family of the person, and I'm going to make some squares. It's going to be interesting because it's not just a community of of knitters or crocheters as such. You know, it's more kind of people from the general public. And we're also going to make a book to go with it. So people, those that really don't craft it all, can just write something and we'll put it in the book. But I have, and I don't know if I've been crazy with this, I have actually included fabric. I've said that people could use fabric as well, because I thought that maybe some people might find it easier just with, you know, fabric pens or something, just to write on a piece of cloth, or to do, I mean, I'm going with my children, do some handprints, you know, of each of their handprints. And maybe some people cross stitch, or maybe some people embroider that don't kind of knit and crochet. My one concern is how I'm going to put this all together. Yeah, we'll see. So yeah, blankets and squares and things seem to be a bit of a theme at the moment. I need to get on with doing my ones for that, and figuring out how to. I know that there is a tutorial on Heidi Bear's blog about adding a crocheted edge onto a pillowcase, which is obviously fabric. So I think I'm going to look at that and see how she attached the you know, the crochet edge to the fabric, and maybe use that as a way to add the fabric ones in between the other ones. So yeah, that's kind of my figuring out what to do with squares at the moment, and my finished objects, which I'm quite proud of. So yeah, finally the Lush cardigan is finished. Just because I possibly don't have enough on my needles at the moment, or, you know, things that I need to get finished by deadlines, such as sending them with my dad to England, I am planning to cast on more stuff. But there's a purpose for this, you will understand. In the South African group, the knit along for this month is to knit a project that's got less, or to knit a pattern that's got less than 10 projects. And I also want to knit socks for the person I know that's got breast cancer. And so I wanted, people said your feet, she doesn't get cold normally. And so I've never knitted her socks before, because she's always warmer than everybody else, and doesn't feel the cold. But a lot of people have said with chemotherapy, your hands and feet get so very cold, and some of them cause peripheral neuropathy, which is kind of affects the nerves in your hands and feet, and of that sensation, it can feel can be interpreted as cold by your body. So I'd wanted to make some really soft, and your hands and feet can get very sensitive. You know, you can feel very, very, very sensitive on your hands and feet. So I wanted to make some really soft socks. And in my stash, I found this Ladysmith sock by Heartland yarns, in her Ladysmith sock. And this is her 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. So I just thought that bit of cashmere would really make it nice and soft. I'm thinking of bed socks kind of thing. I don't think they need to be particularly hard wearing. It's just really for warmth and comfort and all this. And they're called Toasty. I actually got this in a swap, and so I'm really pleased to be able to use it. The yarn it's the only yarn I've got with cashmere in my stash, for your sock yarn with cashmere. I didn't think that knitting socks in 100% cashmere was quite the thing to do. I mean, I think that might just really be looking for trouble, you know. Even for bed socks, I think that might be a little bit silly. So this was the only thing I have with cashmere, except for the green yarn that I took out for Caleb. That's got also, it must be very similar base, because it's also superwash merino, cashmere, and nylon in those really lovely greens. But I did take it out for him, and these are, you know, the pinks and browns and stuff. So I think it'll work well for breast cancer socks. It's a little bit variegated, possibly, for the pattern that I'm going to choose, but be that as it may, it's what I'm going to use. I think I'm going to try it. I'm going to board it up, and then I'm going to try you know, repeat or two, and just see what it does. I just want to see if I can show you the pattern. I'm planning to do Judy's. I think they're called Socks That Rock. or Hope That Rocks. Let me just totally check that name for you. And they are, she had a sort of a scare with breast cancer, or you know, a mammogram, and then needed to investigate, and it was actually nothing. But it inspired her to do these robes, to do these socks, and they've actually got the ribbon in the design. So they are called Hope Can Rock socks. And as you can see here, let's just make that a bit bigger. As you can see there, they have the breast cancer ribbon in them, and there's a sort of picture of the full socks. Now, I mean, this is a twisted rib pattern, and I really don't know what it's going to do in a variegated yarn. You know, obviously these weren't knit in variegated yarn. I mean, look, many of the projects have been done with variegated. I don't know how it's going to come up. No, they're all done with sort of semi-solids and pinks. Well, I'm going to see. You know, at the end of the day, I just want her to have some cashmere warm socks. That's the bottom line. I'd really like to use this pattern because of the whole symbolism of the pattern. I don't have plain pink yarn that I could use, although pink isn't really her color. I just thought it's nice. It's got kind of that breast cancer link or feel to it, and it's called Toasty, and it's got the browns. She really likes the autumnal colors, you know, so the browns and the stuff will be fine. I just hope it's going to knit up, not too, I hope it's not going to be too distracting with the variegated yarn and a kind of a pattern like that. So that's what I'm planning, is the socks for the knit along. And it's also, what do they say, a lot of people are doing sock knit alongs. They call it Socktember, or no, October, Socktober. October, I don't know. Anyway, a lot of people are knitting socks in October anyway, so these are what I'm going to do. So that's my planning. My other planning, I'm not going to cast it on any time soon. When I was in the shop looking for buttons, actually, I came across, remember I said I was going to the log cabin blanket, and I don't have any double knit scraps or leftovers or anything in my stash, and the yarn budget is a bit low at the moment, so I didn't really want to go and buy a whole lot of double knit yarn. But I happened to notice, and I mean, it's a blanket. I don't need to use the most expensive indie dyed yarn for it. You know, it can just be some general wool. I did want it to be wool. And I noticed that they had some, this is 100% pure new wool, and it actually is quite soft. I mean, it's really not bad. It's squishy, it's soft, it doesn't feel scratchy or anything. It's 100% yarn made in South Africa, and they had it on sale for 20 Rand a ball. I mean, like, that's less than $2. It is a 50-gram ball, but still, you know, like for $2 a ball, I think I could get. They only had this yellow. This is balled slightly different, but it's also called this Pure New Wool, which is the same label. I don't know if maybe one's a slightly newer label than the other. So this is called Gold, and this is called Shade 20. Nothing more exciting than that. Whoops. And then there is one more. What's coming untangled a bit, called Shade 47 in this kind of reedy color. So those three actually don't go too badly. But I wanted to make an entire log cabin blanket in with a Rachel dead chuff since it's all yellow. So I bought that, and I was showing Sally Wool Diaries, and she said to me, but you can over dye the lighter one, which I hadn't even thought of. It didn't even occur to me to think that I could over dye it, because it really is quite light. I think there's quite a lot I can do with it. That said, I have never dyed anything. I lie. I've been to a natural dyeing day before, where there was a sort of a pot and you put your yarn in and you took it out, and that is the extent of my dyeing. I have some dyes. I got some in a swap, and I've always been too nervous to use them. So I'm going to start watching some tutorials on how you dye yarn, and I'm going to play around and see if I can dye this lighter color. So I went back because there were some more there. I only got these to I thought I can at least just start with some log cabin squares, and they were so inexpensive. I thought I might as well just even keep them until I've got some more double knit later. But they had quite a lot of this. She said she'd got the yarn in a bargain box or bargain bag, obviously because maybe not many people wanted the yellow or something like that. So I might have gone back and bought a bag of yellow. Because I mean, surely you can do green and blue. I mean, even if it comes up, slightly greenish, or you can do reds that have oranges in them, or, I understand I'm not working with a white base, but surely I can make brown, and I can make a variety of things. I mean, I've been looking on the internet, and I've seen, somebody was talking about it, and they were using Kool-Aid dye. I mean, I'm not going to be using food coloring or Kool-Aid, but they'd had some lighter bases like this, and they'd managed to make some spectacular colors, that added things over the top. So, yeah, I'm feeling a bit brave. So I bought another whole packet. So this is 10. So that would be 10, 12, 14, 15 balls so far. And I think we worked out of the 50 gram balls, I think you need 30 something in the end. So I mean, it's a start. And it really wasn't that expensive. And so I think it'll be a nice blanket. And it gives me a chance to play around with, I'm not any great fundy with color and knowing how to put colors together and combine them well for dye and all of that kind of thing. Dyeing, I don't think I have the natural knack for the colors that you need for doing that kind of thing. So it's not really something I've wanted to play around with an awful lot until now. But I mean, you get such a bargain on the price of yarn. And all you need to do is change the color up a bit. I kind of thought, well, I'm going to say those famous last words. How hard can it be? Look, I'm only trying to make it. That does not take anything away from those that actually dye for a living and know what they're doing and go for a specific color. And I think there's great skill in layering colors, and colors are not just throw, a whole bunch of dye at it. I know it doesn't work like that. But I think to cover yarn that I can do for a blanket, I don't think I can do too badly, is kind of my point. It's going to be a log cabin blanket. I'm not trying to make myself, the next greatest sweater or whatever. Although I did think this yellow might have been actually quite nice for a cardigan for Rachel, seeing as it was so inexpensive. Anyway, I got a bag of it, and if she's got some more later, I might go back and get another bag. Well, what I thought, I have exercised some restraint. Which was a little hard, thinking that, well, this month's budget really didn't want to stretch that much further than one bag of yarn, but I would also first see if I could get this dyeing process right before I go and buy another whole bag of yarn. So I'm first going to try and see, next time when I podcast, if I've had a chance to by then, hopefully I'll be able to show you my dyeing experiments, and either there'll be a resounding success, or you can all snicker quietly behind your hands at my rather disastrous attempts at dyeing yarn. Anyway, it'll be fun. I mean, Rachel will enjoy the process. It'll be fun either way. So that's what I'm planning with the log cabin blanket. Not planning to cast it on anytime soon. I am hopefully planning to cast on the socks during October. That was the plan. And the hat and sewing up the animals and all the rest. So I kind of need to get going. And I need to do the final edits on the book. It has now been proofread, and there are little changes that need to be made. And one of my proofreaders actually suggests putting a map in, which I think is a fantastic idea. I've ordered the patterns. You're kind of thinking, what order you put patterns in a book? I've ordered the patterns starting in Cape Town and kind of moving up the coast, and then sort of Drakensberg and up to the north, but so as the patterns were inspired around the country. And I'm thinking that I probably need to put a map in, because there are probably a lot of people that don't know, and then mark somehow where each of the patterns fits into the whole map and stuff. So I'm going to do that. And then really, hopefully, with the minor changes that need to happen, the ebook and standalone patterns can launch pretty soon, hopefully in October. And then the pre-orders for the main book. So I'm really excited about that. So between all this knitting and the book and everything else, hopefully, we'll kind of get there. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen at the moment. And Tice is going to be on school holidays. So of course that always cuts down on the amount of anything that I can get done. But that's life. I'm really pushing though to try and get the book out this month. So fingers crossed, it's going to be soon. There are some minor changes that need to happen, and then it should all be done. So that should be quite exciting. I'm going to do a little insert. I'm going to put a little clip where Rachel showed what we got this week. There is a bit of a post office strike in South Africa. So for those of you that I need to post your prize, I'm just waiting. They're not accepting parcels at the moment. But this parcel did manage to get through. Actually, it took a while, but the parcel did manage to get through, and Rachel would like to tell you about it. And then just to say the project bags, I will give her the one that she liked, and some of the others I'm going to use for giveaways. So that will be quite exciting with that. And thank you very much, Elaine Illaby, for sending the parcel to us. We really, really appreciate it. It was lovely. At the end of the podcast, I'm going to do a little bit, probably after Emma's Afrikaans word of the day. I'm going to do a bit of a spoiler, a little bit of a kind of about Outlander and the book I'm reading, because I kind of have to talk to somebody, and I know that some of you have read it. And those of you that haven't, or that are watching and that don't want a spoiler, please stop watching before the end of the video. So I'm going to put the spoiler, I'm going to put a big notice, spoiler, and then I'm going to kind of say my little thing, and then have a watch then if you want to. If you're interested in Outlander, or if you, I don't normally include things about books or series or stuff, but I was kind of having a little moment. So if you'd like to watch that, then go ahead. If you're not wanting to read it, but if you've got any plans to watch it or read it or whatever, don't watch, it'll spoil it. Yeah, so I'll put that up at the end. For everyone else, it's not going to watch that, but I'm going to say goodbye. If you're going to watch that bit, I'll say goodbye to you again then. All right, bye-bye, everybody.
I've been waiting for a very long time for a parcel for my birthday because there was a postal strike. And so I told Mommy this time I'm getting the parcel, not you. So Mommy had to help me at the post office because I didn't want to wait till we got at home to open it. I opened it, and the first thing I saw in my parcel was this card. And it looked really lovely. I love the 3 little cupcakes with the happy birthday. And so the first thing I rushed for is my dolly. She's got a dress and her hair, and it's really beautiful. She's got a little label with writing on the back, and I like her. Then we got set with these. These were, the rest of the things I think were for Mommy, so the dolly was only mine. So this is Wilson's toffees in the bag. I think these were the licorice flavored, yep. Then there's a little fishy project bag. I'm not sure what that says. I can't. Oops. I think it says L. Yeah, L. And then this, Mom wants to keep this bag. She says it's hers. And it's got a little orange butterfly. And there's a little other bag. And then there's this African one with ladies dancing in the palms. I told Mom I want this one. And then there's another one like the other one, just a different make, but it's like that. I told Mommy at first I want all the project bags. She says I'm not allowed all of them. So that's what we got in the parcel, and I wanted to immediately start making her more clothes because the label said she has no name yet and she needs more clothes. So I wanted to start making her clothes immediately, but Mommy says she needs to do her podcast first.
What's her name going to be?
Haven't decided.
And who sent us this parcel? On your tag.
Ella B.
Elaine Ella B. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I love the dolly. I want to make her a whole box full of clay.
And what did you say about the dolly and your birthday presents? Do you remember what you said?
No.
What did you say about your best birthday presents and your...
This was one of my best birthday presents, but Pippin was the number one.
Did you say that was your number 2 best birthday present?
Yes, and the birthday presents don't like each other.
Oh, he barks at her.
Pippin thinks it's a real person's. I sat down and she was sitting next to me, and Pippin started barking his head off. And then when I tried to show him her, he tried to get her. So maybe once he's woken up from his nap and he's still a bit sleepy, I'll show him. Thank you very much. Bye.
Hello, and I am gate crashing on the Afrikaans word of the day this time because the discussion started or originated in the car. We had dropped Titus off at school. He goes to a prayer group, and Rachel and Caleb and I were driving home. And Caleb was talking about Freckles. And so they were asking me what a freckle is in Afrikaans. And I, for the life of me, could not remember what a freckle was. Caleb loved to kind of put an Afrikaans spin on English words and try to pass them off as being Afrikaans. So his contribution to the conversation was that a freckle must be a Vrokkle. So there's a great hilarity over that. I knew that wasn't right. So Rachel, being ever practical, phones Emma.
So I get this phone call in the middle of the day. I'm busy in a program, and Papa, what's Afrikaans for freckles? Okay, who's asking? And then Sally said, I guess.
Yeah, I had something, and I knew it wasn't right, but I kind of thought of a spusterkie. It just sounded like, I don't know, it should be a freckle, you know, like just. But actually, apparently, that is
Cinderella.
Afrikaans. So Caleb was doing this sort of Afrikaansanized English or whatever by making a Vrokkle, and I was coming up with Cinderella.
Afrikaansanized, is that the opposite from Anglicized?
Anglicized, yeah, Afrikaansanized.
Okay,
so an actual freckle is
Sprutte.
Sprutte.
Of sproetjies.
Sproetjies. Say it again.
Sproetjies. Of sprutte.
Sproet.
Een sproet, once.
Sproet.
Sproet. Many sprutte.
Sproet.
And Afrikaners love making something cute by making it small. So it's a klein word, is making something small. It's sproetjie.
Diminutive, yeah.
Diminutive, that's right. Yeah.
So spreekie.
Yes.
Spree. You see, it's not so bad. I got a spusterkie, spreekies, whatever. Anyway, then Caleb decided what did he get on to? Frikeys. So then he was singing the whole way home about having frikeys on his bottom, and you know, a 6-year-old boy. And that is actually
A frat as a award.
Yes. So we went from anyway, we had
Vrokkles and Freckles.
Vrokkles and Freckles and spusterkies, and so the actual word, the Afrikaans word of the day, let's not confuse you. Freckles is Sprutte or
Sproetjies.
Sproetjies. Okay. Right. So that's your Afrikaans word of the day. Outlander. Oh my goodness. It has actually been quite a long time since I've got really engrossed in a book. You know what happened was I used to read quite a lot, and the more I started knitting, the less I would read, because I can read and knit at the same time if it's just, you know, plain or straight stitch or whatever, but not that much. I mean, I tend to watch, series or movies or stuff more while I'm reading than I actually, while I'm knitting rather than reading. And so I would tend to knit very late at night, especially when I was working on the South African book. I'd be doing designs and working on stuff and things. And I'd fall into bed normally so tired and not do terribly much reading. The other thing that kind of got me, not off reading, but sort of put a damper on it. And this was so long ago, but it shows you, gets you out of a pattern of doing something, and then it sometimes gets a bit hard to get back into it. I often used to read when I would breastfeed the children, lying on the bed, and it's quiet, and so it would be a great excuse, to leave the room to go and breastfeed them. Not that I am the kind that always excuse myself. I breastfeed anyway. I was just, really, my children are hungry, I'm feeding them. Sorry if it makes you uncomfortable. That was just me. Funny enough, I'd always waited. I always hear about people getting hassles with breastfeeding in public or places they were asked not to. And I had my argument prepared, for what I was going to say to defend my. And nobody ever in the 6 years that I 2 years for each child that I breastfed all of them ever said anything. It was like I was really waiting and deflated. I never got to use my breastfeeding arguments. But anyway, completely beside the point. I was reading this book when I was breastfeeding Tyson. I should have brought it. It is enormous. The book itself is about this thick. It's a great book. It's a follow-on of a fantasy series that I was reading, and I was really enjoying it. But it became, I was endangering his life, should I say, by reading this book. I dropped it. I dropped the book on his head. This thing is massive. It fell open, and it did have a little bit of a bruise. But yeah, by the time you've dropped the book on your baby's head, it kind of, yeah. So I stopped reading. I think I was tired, and the book was so big, and I was trying to hold it. So I stopped reading while I was breastfeeding him. And then I just sort of got out of the habit, and I didn't have anything interesting to read at that time and all the rest. So I hadn't read in a while. And then I watched the Geeky Girl Knits podcast. And of course, I'm a bit of a sucker for knit-alongs. And they mentioned the Outlander knit-along. And she mentioned Outlander quite a few times, the book she was reading, or she said it's not safe for kids, blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of picked up, there's actually quite a Scottish theme in the book. And being a Cameron, my surname, and I am fourth generation Scottish on my dad's side, which means that my grandfather was born in South Africa. My great-grandfather on my dad's side was born in Scotland. Yes, they immigrated quite recently. And my gran is, of course, Scottish, and she's third generation. So although I'm South African, my family haven't been in South Africa for very long. It's a bit silly, really, to feel like you have these ties to a place or a country that you don't live in or don't know or whatever. But I do feel like I've got some sort of, family ties or feeling sort of Scottish or whatever. So, I thought, actually, I'm going to give these books a go. I got the Kindle, and I read a knitting book. One of the Friday Night Knit Club, I think it was. Yeah, and I had enjoyed the process of reading on the Kindle. That was my first sort of let me see if I like reading on the Kindle. And I did. I actually really did enjoy reading on the Kindle. So I got Emmett to get me because he does the whole how to buy it. And I know it's easy, just like one click thing, but he set up the Kindle. I just said that's what I want, and he gets it delivered to my Kindle for me. And so I started reading Outlander. Oh my goodness, I really enjoyed it. It was, it's quite a hectic read. There's they are literally escaping from one thing to the next. There's like one drama happening after the next. And some of the, those of you that have read the first one, she has a fairly graphic way of describing some of the torture scenes and the flogging and the end bit, and there's some very uncomfortable reading in some of it, but I was riveted. The one night my Kindle, the other deceptive thing about a Kindle is you do not have a visual clue on how much of the book is actually left. So I got to this really exciting bit, and he's been captured and he's in that prison or whatever, and there is 20% left of the book to read. And I'm thinking, well, that's not so long, I'm just going to finish it tonight. 1:30 in the morning, when I finally finished the book. 20% is actually quite long when it's a big book, but yeah. Anyway, so I finished the book, and I'm like, your heart is pounding, and they managed to get out, and he's alive, and like the ups and downs of this whole thing. At one point I thought, I actually can't take it. I don't read endings to books. I'm not like that. I kind of stick with it. But by the umpteenth time he'd been captured, and then she was trying to free him, and then he negotiated to let her go, and he stayed and all the rest. I actually thought, I can't not know if he gets out of this. I was so, like, there was so much anxiety. I thought, I need to know. Just like, if he gets out of it, then I know I can carry on reading. So I went to actually Google how book 2 starts. And I'd read the first little bit that she's back that they'd escaped to France and that she was back in England. I didn't go into any more than that. So I thought, okay, all right, he's going to get out of this. And I could kind of steel myself to reading and the cattle going through and all the rest, right? So I got through all of that. And I mean, he's like nearly dying in the monastery, and she manages to kind of get him to, fight back and all the rest. And the book ends, and she's pregnant and all the rest. And you start the other book and he's dead. What the hell? I'm like, what? And then you see, oh, she's gone back, and then he's dead. And there are 8 more books to go. And he's dead. Like, he's the dude. I mean, he's like Jamie is like part of the whole story, and he's dead, and I have to read book 2 just to find out how he died. Well, I mean, obviously, he dies on the field in the battle and all the rest, but like, to know that in the beginning of the book, I don't know if I can go on. I don't know that I can actually read the whole book just to find out that he's dead, and then whatever the story is going to go on from there. I'm gutted. I am absolutely gutted. So I cheated again. A little bit. I mean, I actually couldn't pick up the book. I was like, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's obviously the sign of a good book, or a good book that's entangled you. You feel so engrossed with the characters, you feel so personally involved with them. And I actually messaged Java Pearl CC, and I said, this is your fault, because you got me interested in reading these books, and I can't read on. I can't actually just read this whole book to find out how he dies. I thought, well, maybe it carries on with his daughter, maybe she goes through the stones, or maybe, there's another whole thing. But there's no 8 books without him. I'm like, just over it. I couldn't read it. So please do not watch this, or stop watching now if you haven't read these books yet. And anyway, so I said to her, I can't read on. And she just wrote back one, and she says, don't give up on him yet. That's all she said. So I haven't found out what's happened yet, or how they managed to wing the story, or what happens. And with all these other projects that I've got, I mean, nothing's Outlanderish in my yarn colors or anything that I'm knitting at the moment. So I don't think I'm even going to be joining an Outlander cull. But oh my goodness, this book has me like, my emotions. I keep thinking, I was like in the shower, and I was thinking, imagining how she could go back, and maybe she's studying to be a doctor so that she could go back to go and save his life or something. But do you always go back to the same time? Like, if she went back, it's always 200 years. So it's been 20 years that has passed. Is she going to go back 200 years, but with 20 years past? But then I was thinking that Gilly had come from the 60s and was back in the same time that she was when she'd gone from the 40s. So maybe it's not exactly 200 years. Maybe there's like some give or take, and there's a way of knowing how far you go back, and she's going to go say, I don't know, but So anybody that is reading the books, or has read them, or can sympathize with my Outlander anxiety at the moment, I just thought I had to share that. No, it doesn't really have anything to do with knitting, but I will find an Outlander project. Anybody that's got some really good Outlander projects to suggest, or yarn, or whatever, let me know. I'm really keen to sort of get involved in doing a project. I'll sew up those toys as fast as I can and get going on those socks, and then I really should be able to join the Outlander stuff. So sorry, that was my little insert, my little rant about Outlander. So apparently I mustn't give up yet. So once Cece said that I actually could pick up the book last night, and I could read a little bit more. Before that I couldn't. I thought, I can't read this whole thing just to see how he dies. I was gutted. I was like, it can't be the whole first book. They're surviving, they're running, and this and that, and they could survive the whole time. And the end of the book, the first book, you were so invested in him surviving. And to start the second book with he's dead, I was just gutted. Anyway, that's my little interlude. Thank you for watching this episode. Wish me luck on my camping this weekend, and I will chat to you all again next time. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye.